For me, this story was more of a Flash story. It focuses a lot on the Flash, but then it's too convoluted to actually understand what the hell is going on. I have no idea what was happening. It continues from War World, which in itself was super complicated. At the end, I was like, what the hell is happening? And still, when you get into this movie and we really get into it, I'm like, can we just stop? Even with the labels, when they say at whatever, at this, at that, I'm like, who is this Flash? Where is he? Okay, so he can actually tap into this speed force and go into this planet and go into this earth and go into this earth. And so we go into this earth, and then there's another old Flash, and then you learn that old Flash just was the other Flash that... I'm like, what? This is just an animated movie. Why would you make something so complex? I mean, if you're making a superhero production, look at Infinity War, which I think at the end they kind of borrowed from. Look at Infinity War. Infinity War, it's a movie that was designed for fans, true fans, people who've watched Marvel movies from the beginning up to this point. But if you've never seen all those movies and you watch Infinity War, you'd still get to know, you'd still kind of understand what was happening. You know why? Because everything is clear. The inciting incident is clear. The MacGuffin is clear. Everything, you know, this is the bad guy. He wants a couple of rocks. These rocks can do A, B, C, D, E, F, G. So the threat is understandable. And you understand why this group of heroes have to stop this person. Because, you know, the world is at stake. The universe is at stake. But this multiversal story, this one that we're looking at, they are going after antimatter, an antimatter wave. It's something that comes like a wave and just clearly consumes a planet. And I'm like, okay, so who's the big bad? So is there a person controlling it? What is then supposed to happen? Is there a villain? Because also the way that the movie ends, you're like, what? So where are we going with this? What's happening? Because you don't have a clear look into yes, you understand the threat, but you don't know what the threat is. It's just a theme. You don't get to understand, maybe was it triggered by a person? Was it, because even within, now apart from that antimatter wave coming and consuming the planets, there is another love story between Iris and Barry Allen. Yeah, from different, you know, and we're looking at it from different planets. And I'm like, okay, this is a bit too much. Then, despite that, there's another character called, I can't remember, he's an android character. Yes, he eventually plays into the whole story and actually adds value to the full story. But his segment, I'm like, it feels like a totally different movie. His part only, because it involves Luthor, it involves Justice League, it involves him being a robot that was created to actually do good, and then it was corrupt, and then it has the ability to actually suck superhero powers. I thought that was a movie. I thought that was the movie in itself. It made sense. There's a villain, there's a good guys. You know what the conflict is, you know where everyone is coming from, you know what they're fighting for. But that is just a segment. That's like a third of everything else. Everything else now is where things become convoluted, because now, if you remember War World, there was this character who had flames on her head, and then she could go into, you know, teleport to a different planet. And so now she's bringing people together, all these heroes together from different arts. So you have, if you've played Injustice 2, you may have an idea of what's happening. You have all these characters from all these multiverses coming together. And so they're not coming together to fight. I mean, what are they fighting? It's a wave. You cannot stop it. It's something that's consuming everything. So what they do is that they're coming together so that the intelligent minds can come up with something that can try to stop this thing. And then these other superpowers, because these other superheroes, because they are superpowered, their work is to create these things that these scientists come up with. Now, whatever they come up with, and that's where now I got totally confused. There's something that an older Flash was creating, and I was like, wait, so who is he? Does he know about this? Is he a part of that? Why has he and Iris aged? And why is this world? Because you can see the wave coming, but everything has been frozen in time. So Iris and Barry Allen have been living in a frozen world all this time until they get old, and then Iris dies, and then somehow Barry is able to create this thing that actually kind of stops now the anti-wave, whatever. But that then has a consequence that leads to the end. Then when the end happens, you're like, okay, so now what is coming up? What's going to be next? I don't know who they're going to be fighting. I don't know what they're going to be facing. I don't know what's going to happen. It felt very convoluted. It had so many characters. If Diversity was a movie, this would be it. And I'm not saying that there's nothing wrong with Diversity, but when you see a studio try to do it, there's a problem. If you see people cutting shortcuts saying, no, change that so that we can have more diverse people, there's a problem. If you see shortcuts being made in order for the studios to look like they are pro inclusion and diversity, there's a problem. What am I trying to say? This movie is the definition of diversity, and it's not like natural. It feels unnatural. It feels forced. I want to see black heroes, but I want to see black heroes who make sense for them to be black. It's not. I don't like trophy diversity whereby you say, oh, for black people we have a black. Look, we have a black character. No, make it make sense. For someone like Green Lantern, you have both versions. I'm cool with it. But there's a Justice League team that is set up in the first place, and you can see Diana has been replaced by another character. And she wasn't replaced because she was not on that particular planet. She was replaced because, you get, the main villain, his storyline is tied to another character. And that character looks a certain way, and you're like, by the way, that character went to University of Nairobi, which is where I come from. According to the story, the character who built that android was from University of Nairobi. So Nairobi is in Kenya. I come from Nairobi, so I was like, oh, okay, that's pretty cool. And it's cool for him to be that. But why would you? There's nothing wrong with that. And I'm not saying that a black person cannot work for Luther. But I was like, I think that was just done. You know, the way you go like, we need to be more inclusive, we need to be more diverse. So make that character black. You know, for me it would have made sense if you had, because that android character was fighting like a few members of the Justice League, and in that particular arc, Justice League was not created. So they were in that point of creating Justice League. So I would have hoped that they would have used black heroes. You know, the ones that we know, the black heroes from the Justice League. For example, Steel. I think it's called Steel, who is a version of Superman who has like an external, armor and plays to, he's Superman. I would wish that character was there. Hawk, is it called Hawk? Hawk from Black Adam. If you remember the black character who had the hawk and stuff. If that character was there, it would have made more sense. It would have been more exciting for me if he was there. I would have felt more included if he was there, because you literally, there's a scene that I actually looked at, and I was like, the producers looked at that scene and thought, we need to add a black character in this scene. It's too white. There's a scene like that, and I was like, this is how I assume the producers actually thought, because it looks a certain way. But anyway, yeah, I don't have a problem with what they're trying to do, but for me, I felt like they were trying to do too much, and it was just too complicated, man. It was just it's just a too convoluted movie, man. Just make it simpler, man. Just break it down, make it simple, make it, let's go back to Sam Louis. I think it's called Sam Louis, where they made Batman movies that actually made sense and you could understand them. Well, anyway. So basically that's it. That's, if I was to give this, I would give this a 2.5 out of 5, because I'm just giving it 2.5 because I enjoyed the action, I enjoyed the idea, but it was too convoluted. I never understood anything that was happening. Most of it, the majority of it. And I just went along because I thought maybe they would have, because it's part 1, maybe they would have an interesting ending, and maybe this was a bit of a setup. But apparently this is its own story, but it has a cliffhanger, that a forced one actually. So basically that's it. It's a 2.5 out of 5. If you haven't seen this, if you love Justice League, there are fun moments. There are actually things that they do with the Justice League. I don't want to spoil it for people. There are cool stuff that they do that actually. And as I said, it's a Flash movie. If you love Flash, there's a lot of that. So basically that's it. That's how I felt about this movie. I hope they're going to do a better job with the second one. And it feels like it was written by AI. It's weirdly structured. Let me just put it that way. It has that feeling of being too artificial in structure and in storytelling. So basically that's it. Remember to always watch what you enjoy and enjoy what you watch, and I shall see you on the next one. Please subscribe and also like.